Okay, I think I'm live. Hi, everyone. Matt Harrison here. I just got off a run. I often go for a run, and I go for a run usually without headphones, without listening to anything, because it gives me a chance to sort of clear my brain. Um, Actually, I talk about this a little bit in my learning course that I just came out with that talks about how your brain works, but um, there's this thing called incubation in your brain, and if you're you know, working on something and then you go and get distracted and you just do some sort of flow activity like running or sleeping or showering, oftentimes your brain comes up with ideas. So, and these are some of the thoughts I had while I was on my run. So, if you're following this on LinkedIn, feel free to ask a question or comment if you want to. I should see them. But what I wanted to do this morning earlier, I was working on my book authoring course. So a lot of you have probably heard about that. It's called Effective Authoring, where I talk about end-to-end book publishing for technical people who want to publish a nonfiction book, either with a publisher or self-publishing. So it's a great resource for that. And part of the content for that is I'm doing a bunch of interviews with authors. So since this is a serious technical talk, I better crack open the LaCroix and get some technical juice in me. And so I was talking with Noah Gift and Reuven Lerner this morning, who have both published one or more books. And Reuven gave me an interesting idea. He said, I get a bunch of people asking me questions, and I just basically say, well, I'll respond to it, but I'm going to respond to it in a public forum. And so this is a response to a public, or not a public, a private tweet that someone DM'd me. And so I just thought I would respond to it here for the benefit of everyone. So here is the tweet. I'm not going to say who it's from, but it says, Matt, you have deep knowledge in the field of data science, so I hope you don't mind me asking some questions. And I try and be helpful. It's hard for me to scale out to individuals, especially random individuals, but let's see what I can do here. I want to learn data science and already have some material and background knowledge. I'm a political science student. Okay, so I mean, if that's the case, you should go talk to Chris Albin, but anyway, we'll assume that they don't want to do that. For that, I obviously need to learn Python. Okay, sounds good. My current plan is one, start with DataCamp, already started the intro course, and two, practice with DataCamp projects and Kaggle. The end goal is not necessarily to change career path, but to become a data scientist rather than have it as a side gig. Based on that, do you think this is the right strategy, or in other words, do you believe you can offer a better value through your courses? Okay, thanks. And yeah, someone commented to me that this is like going to like Coke and saying, is Pepsi better? So let me come up with my response for this. I actually asked this on Twitter. I said, how would you respond to this? And I got a lot of good responses. Some of them went along the lines of, talk about what their concerns are and what they need. Don't badmouth the competition. Um, Highlight what makes yours different. Um, so I think those are all super useful. But I have some thoughts here, and let me try and address them. So first of all, I would say that for those who don't know, I run a company called Metasnake. Metasnake does corporate training and consulting, and so generally my corporate training is to large companies who have training budget. They have a budget allocated for training, and I train lots of people from big companies on how to leverage Python and data science. And I've been pretty heads down on that mostly, some consulting on the side for the past 5 years or so. And that's really rewarding. However, I do get questions like this, like how do you help me? And my response is typically, well, do you have a budget, right? And if not, I like focus on feeding my family. So the courses that I've been creating recently, and you've probably seen them that I'm creating on Podia, are meant to address that issue, right? How can I help individuals when I'm busy helping groups, larger groups. So I think the question here is, you have your courses, Matt. How do those sort of compare to DataCamp or some other platform as well? And so, first of all, my response is that I don't think this is necessarily an either or. Do you have to use DataCamp or whatever platform or mine? I mean, even like in this book authoring course, I've now interviewed over, I think, albeit 12 authors now, and a lot of these authors are people in my community or network that I know, and because they're in my professional network, they're writing books about Python and data science, which is great overlap to what I'm doing. So are these people competition? I mean, I don't really consider them competition per se. They have a product. Do some of their products compete with mine? Yeah. Can you use both of them? Yeah, I think you can use both of them. And maybe is one better for someone else? Yeah, possibly. That could be the case as well. I mean, I will say that a lot of my big clients, my corporate clients, right, they value the very high interactive hands-on training that I provide, but they also have Pluralsight, DataCamp, other Talk Python licenses as well, so they can leverage those resources as well. So I'm obviously biased, but my opinion is that the best bang for your buck for training is live training. Obviously, that's a little bit hard these days in person, but virtual, I still think is the best bang for your buck to get a team leveled up quickly. And then you have courses, which I think are good as well. Those scale out better. So first of all, is it competition? Is DataCamp competition? Maybe. I mean, if you're a student, maybe that's competition. You kind of can pick one and you're limited to that. But maybe it's not. Now, if you're trying to consider one or the other, let me just give you some obviously biased reasons why I'm stoked about what I provide. First of all, I'll say I'm not a professor. So I think what I'm providing is different from what you'd get in like a college or university class. And I mean, I don't mean like I have a brother who's a professor. I mean, I have friends who are professors. So I don't mean to degrade them. I'll say this though, that many like computer science professors don't write code, and they haven't really written a lot of code or haven't written code in production. So does that mean what they're teaching is bad? No, not necessarily, but I would like to think that what I'm offering is highly practical experience based on years of usage, right? And sort of battle scars and wisdom earned that way rather than, I'd say, book knowledge, if that makes sense. I'd also say that I'm not a trainer. So I'm often solicited by companies who are like, can you go read our slides to said client? And I mean, I certainly can do that, but I don't think that's the most effective mechanism. I mean, if I'm reading someone's slides on Python, and certainly I have done training for other people in Python, but my point is like, if I were to go out and teach a class on JavaScript or Java, I mean, could I do that? I've used both of those professionally, but I haven't used them professionally for a couple of years, and I don't consider myself an expert in those, even though I've been paid to program in them. So I could do that, but I don't think it would be the most effective class, if that makes sense. So I think people want to leverage people like me because I have deep knowledge in this field and I have a bunch of experience doing it. I mean, I've basically been doing Python and data science for 20 years before data science was being called data science. So I have experience, but I've also been teaching. So I say I'm not a trainer, but I have a computer science degree, I have work experience, but I also have a bunch of tutoring experience. I paid for my schooling with tutoring. And, for the past 5 years, like I said, I've been pretty heads down in the training space. And I've probably taught more Python than most of the trainers out there. I mean, there's some that have probably taught more people than me, but I would say in the top 1% of Python trainers as far as the number of people that I've taught. And so I think I'm pretty well versed in seeing what trips people up and what confuses them, and I can help them get over that. So I think there's value in that when you're conveying knowledge, right? You know where people get hung up, and someone who maybe is a tech person who's smart, who's like used Python for 20 years, but hasn't taught it and hasn't taught it to many people, might have a bunch of knowledge and applied knowledge, but might not know how to get that across. And so that's probably where I'd contrast my style and I think my benefits with something like a DataCamp or even a Pluralsight. Um, I mean, full disclosure, I have courses on Pluralsight, but I also know that there are a lot of people on, and there's good people on DataCamp and Pluralsight, but there are also people who don't have experience training on there. So they might have a lot of knowledge and they might be able to present knowledge, but I like to think that I'm sort of giving you some hard-earned experience because I've seen what tricks people when you teach them, and so I hope that I'm teaching those sorts of things. So generally my training is, high value, high touch, and clients like it. There's a very high return on their ROI. It's very effective. And often clients will engage with me for more than just training, which is why I say I think I'm not just a trainer, like clients often do consulting with me as well. So I think there's value in that relationship. So I just went through a round of soliciting feedback from people in my courses, in my Podia courses. And, getting feedback is something that is hard to do, first of all. Like, most people don't want to give feedback. And then second of all, some people like you and some people don't. And so that can be really hard. I mean, people who've written a book, I talk about this in the book course, like, if you're going to write a book, you're going to have to like grow a tough skin because no matter how good your book is, some people won't like it, and they're going to write a review on Amazon that's saying how horrible it is. And I mean, that's life. So you're going to have to get used to that. But in general, I will say like the feedback that I've gotten from my Podia students is generally very good. People are very happy with the classes there. I got a bunch of feedback. I teach a class at Stanford. The feedback I got from Stanford, a couple people are like, this is the best class I've ever had at Stanford. This is Stanford Online. So, I mean, most of these people, some were university students, but they're happy there. I mean, I teach a lot of courses for O'Reilly as well. I get similar reviews. I mean, people often come to my different classes because they enjoy my classes. So I think my feedback is generally good. However, I realize like I'm not going to make everyone happy, just like I said, right? Once you put yourself out there, you won't make everyone happy. And I realize not everyone likes me. In fact, I was in a course just the other day and someone said, you look weird, you shaved. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I did shave. And they're like, okay. So you see, I've obviously listened to the feedback and growing the beard. I typically grow a beard during the winter for warmth reasons. But, you get weird feedback like that. People are like, I don't like how you look because you shaved, those sorts of things. And so I realized that, yeah, there are some people who won't like my training, right? And maybe they don't like my sense of humor, or I say something that makes them feel bad or uncomfortable or whatnot. So, yeah, I realize that that's life and you can't please everyone. And that's how it goes. So, are there other trainers that are good? Yeah, there are other trainers that are good. Like Raymond Henninger, Reuven Lerner, great people. Michael Kennedy, Dave Beasley, Mike Mueller. These are all people who have vast experience and who also have experience training as well. And so, are they my competition? Maybe. Should you take a course from them? Sure. Yeah, I think that their products are great, and you should support them as well. So, yeah. So my point is, obvious. If you ask me, should you use my product? Like I said, I'm very biased, and I literally sell snake oil for a living. I tell people how to use Python and tell lies with data. And I think I do a decent job of it, and that's what my feedback is. So now realize that this person's a student, and so price can be a consideration, right? And typically I'm aiming at professionals. My market is professionals who want to be effective, right? Because those are people who it makes sense to invest in this, right? I mean, to be honest, I'm also competing with like probably millions of hours of free content on YouTube and millions of pages of blog posts that are freely available too, right? So, I mean, there's more than enough content out there for free that you could spend your whole life studying that content. So I realize that my value is in packaging this content for you, packaging my experience and taking you on a path with that. Now, I guess the last point here is price, right? Again, I'm catering towards professionals who value their time. And I realize, like, yeah, maybe it's a little bit expensive for students. My courses might be a little bit expensive for students, or for, countries where the economy is just different. So, generally, and I wrote a blog post about this. Generally, I'm not typically a free person per se, in that, like, if people ask me for my course for free, I generally don't give them the course for free, right? I think that I provide value, and I need to feed my family too. And like I said, there's millions of hours of free content out there if you want free content. So is my stuff expensive? I mean, it might be for people who aren't professionals. So to that point, I guess I'm going to take something that I learned from Reuven this morning. Reuven, I was talking to him on his interview, and afterwards we talked about this a little bit. And he said that he doesn't have price parity directly, but he has a standing offer on his courses. So I'll make the same offer that he made, which is basically, if you're in one of the countries that's not the top 30 in per capita income, or you're a student, or you've been impacted by COVID, let me know, and I'll give you a coupon, and that will discount my stuff. And I'll put that offer up there. I'll put that on my website as well. So hopefully that helps with the pricing issue. But like I said, I'm aiming towards professionals, because I think there's great value in this experience and path that I'm taking on. So that's my answer to your question there. Should you do DataCamp? I mean, you can if you want to. I mean, you've already started it. I mean, I have friends who have stuff on DataCamp, so I won't complain too much. I'll just say that, I think there is a difference between random smart people talking about stuff and people who have experience, who are also trainers as well, who can give you a little bit more insight. And that's what I'll say to that. So thanks for the question. Hopefully this was a useful answer. I'll probably try and do this more often. If there's a question like this, just answer it in an open format like this, just because it's hard for me to do one-off answering all these questions per se. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you later. Bye.